Hello, everyone. This is Henny Espinosa with Just Wish Foundation. Today, we are joined by a writer from Bronx, New York, who is sharing her passion for books with her neighborhood through a mobile bookstore, which has, of course, become a vehicle of change. I am so honored to introduce to you Latanya Devon of Bronx Bound Books. Thanks so much for joining us, Latanya.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Latanya, tell us a little bit about your background. I understand when you were growing up, your grandmother really instilled in you a love for learning, love for books. So tell us about that.
Well, my grandmother, she raised me since I was 2 days old. She was a teacher here in the Bronx. She actually taught at my old elementary school, so I got away with nothing. um, and I remember growing up, at any given moment, I would go into my living room on a Saturday or a Sunday, and she would be reading to our neighbors who couldn't read for themselves. She would read prescriptions, leases, letters that came in the mail, explain why cable bills were the prices that they were, and things like that. There were so many people in our community that couldn't read, and they knew to come to her for accurate information, and the fact that she was an educator and just a pillar in our community. She was always willing to help anyone.
Mm-hmm. So growing up, reading for you came, I mean, of course, seeing this, witnessing how reading really can impact not just a family, but also a community.
Right.
Um, did that really cement that perception in you, that faith in you, that really words or books can really create change in the community for the better?
Right. I know that words are powerful, and the written language is such a powerful thing. I grew up looking and yearning for books. We didn't have a bookstore growing up in the Bronx that was like really accessible. And then if there was a few, but the prices were too high, so we would go to used bookstore in the city, and we would travel for a very long time. My aunt would come over and take me, and then when she moved to New Jersey, there was this thing called like garage sales, and while everyone was looking for like Tupperware or whatever that is that you buy at garage sales, I was just buying books at reduced prices. We didn't have a lot of money, so I was able to get used books, and a used book to someone else might be a new book to someone else.
Yeah.
So like those books were new to me.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, like that feeling that new book smell to me was like the best smell. You go to a bookstore and you open the book and you smell it, and the library was always some a place of refuge for me, where
Right.
you can really imagine things. But like maybe times have changed now, Latanya, wouldn't you agree? Like I feel like because knowledge is so accessible also online, information is so accessible online, whether it's true information or not.
Right.
I think that the joy of going to a bookstore or going to a library is somewhat lost, wouldn't you say?
No, it's funny that people think that, but I'm out every time. Every time I'm out, there's like someone else with another story about a book, or it's just like people love books. They gather.
Yeah.
I went to a food festival to sell books, and I'm like, well, I'm the only, book vendor here, and I'm gonna send you pictures. People were swarming at the
Oh, good.
table,
That's good. That's
both
good.
young and old.
Yeah.
It's just like ageless, really. There is a love for reading and a love for actual books.
That's good. That's good.
So,
That I'm wrong, that perception, because I guess I just feel like, for me, for example, I haven't been to a bookstore in a while, just because I feel
mhm.
like I can get that information easily online. But I'm a writer and you're a writer as well.
Mhm.
Tell us how you turn that passion for reading into an actual career in writing.
So I'm a teaching artist. I teach poetry. I run community workshops as well. But I would always meet people who was about to publish a book
Mhm.
and saying, "Wow, I wish I can get my book at this bookstore," or "Wow, how do I get my book at a bookstore?" I've always wanted to own a bookstore. Probably as like a little girl, I didn't even know it was possible for a regular person to open a bookstore, because at the time, I didn't see too many independent bookstores. There was always, the Barnes and Nobles and the Borders and things like that. But for like a regular person to open up a bookstore, I don't know why I had that dream, and I didn't know why I thought it was possible for me to do that if I didn't see anyone that looked like me doing it.
Mhm.
But through my writing, I would like go to different bookstores around the city that were independent, and I realized how different they were, how the feeling was different
The
compared to going to
selection
like
was
one of
probably
the
different too, right?
exactly, and that's where I found out about James Baldwin and Audre Lorde and all these people that I didn't have access to as a kid. I think my life would have been totally different if I could realize how powerful, even more powerful. I knew then how powerful it was, but how it like could activate change.
Hmm.
I think I went off topic, but
But
so
your
as a
path, I
writer,
mean, was directed towards that, and
right,
you wanted to open your own space where you
right,
can select the books that you want to select to bring about change in
yeah.
your community. Did you pursue that route, opening a store, like a brick and mortar store?
I didn't think I could afford it. Gentrification is happening here in the Bronx, making things totally, out of reach. My son's teacher actually owned a bookstore many, many moons ago. And when I had my open mic, I had it in the city. It was a very successful open mic. And people are like, why are you going to move your open mic to the Bronx? And I'm like, well, I live in the Bronx and some of these poets and writers come from all over the city. We should have this. We should not have to step out of our borough and let's support this bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in there one day and I didn't know it was there. I never got a memo or a notice that the bookstore was coming. And I see my son's teacher and I'm like, Miss Harris, did you know this bookstore was here? And she's like, yes, I own it. So at that point, I realized that, oh, I could do that too. So,
Mm-hmm.
my love for reading and my love for writing led me to this dream of mine. I've had this dream since I was a kid to open up a
Mm-hmm.
bookstore, but opening up a physical space wasn't, in the budget.
Uh-huh. So
And I
then
believe
the
that.
idea, let's talk about kind of how the idea of a mobile bookstore came about.
So I was talking to a friend and I was unhappy at my job. And she said, your next job should be your bookstore.
Mhm.
I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're just not happy at these jobs. And I'm like, well, I don't know, I don't think it's possible because like where would I open it? The Bronx is so big and I would feel like I'm neglecting one neighborhood if I choose this neighborhood and I'm from the South Bronx and all these things that, I kept thinking about. Like, I think any business person thinks about when they're opening up a business is location, right? So like a few days later she sent me a picture of a truck, a book truck. And that was the inspiration that I needed. So after I started researching, I realized that the shuttle bus that I did choose, you don't need like a special license to drive it,
Mm.
mileage, all those technical things that I had to find out, through this journey, which led me to, converting the shuttle bus
Mhm.
into the bookstore instead of a truck.
So let's talk about that, converting it into an actual bookstore inside, because
Hmm.
outside, I mean, that's one thing, but converting a shuttle bus was an old shuttle bus, right?
Yes, it was. It was
And
2013.
okay,
That's
into
the
an actual
year.
bookstore. Like what did that entail? What did that take? Did you encounter challenges? How did the
Oh,
community help?
so many challenges because you say, hey, I want to turn this vehicle into a bookstore, and that's not a common thing, and you need people who specialize in, conversion. And it was just hard to find the people to do the work. And then to decide on the design, waiting. I even was on the news at one point because the contractors promised me a 2 to 4 week turnover, and it was 90 days. And I was raising money on GoFundMe, and people were buying books at different farmers markets that I would go to in hopes to help, you know, um, by raising funds with me. I would sell books for like $1 at a farmer's market,
Wow.
and a few of them. And that's another way I was raising money. And then I received a grant to help convert the bus. So as soon as I got the grant, I was able to convert it. But it's an older vehicle. There was new brakes and all these other expenses that had to be done so the vehicle could be safe. And really, be reliable for our mission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when was it officially launched?
So, for my journey and being a mom and being a person that lives on this earth, I know that um, there's never a perfect time and nothing will ever be as perfect as you envision it. So once the bus was converted, I said, look, I'm getting this bus out there. People have waited long enough. It
I
was the
got books,
strangest.
I got the van, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I didn't even
Yeah.
wait for it to get painted on the outside. It was just this mysterious white van rolling up in the neighborhood with books.
Yeah.
So our first weekend was Labor Day weekend, 2021. That was our first official weekend out, and it was supposed to be a soft launch, and I have not been able to put the bus away since.
Wow. So
Yeah,
more than a year since since you launched, since
right.
you like went out there and just, you know, decided to go for it. How have things changed? How have things improved? What are the programs now that you have for the for Bronx Bound Books?
So my original business plan is in the trash because as you move forward in business, you can see things. Once you start piloting, a business, you get to see, okay, I thought this was what I wanted to do, but this doesn't work. Or, hey, this thing works better. I should do more of this. So now I'm able to, people are able to sponsor the bus when they're renting the bus. Since we're a new and used bookstore, the community members get to get books for free. So schools have been renting it so that the students can take home books and keep them forever. I believe in book ownership. I believe in access to books. Um, books without a limit, right? When you have like 2 or 3 weeks to read a book, you can't really devour it as like intentional. There's no like, there's always a rush. You just read the book and then keep it moving. But I think that a book that you can go back to or stop and let it marinate, let that information sink in and share with your family members also. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And just having access to books. So we're able to curate classroom libraries
Mm-hmm.
with, I'm in contact with publishers. I see new books that are about to be released. And I think that, you know, um, if a school wants to do an event on, some subject, I'm like, okay, there's a book coming out. I'm able to pitch the book to the schools. Um, what else? I'm working with other organizations to create community engagement book drives. So they're able to redistribute book wealth. I think books, you can be rich with books. And if you redistribute that wealth of knowledge or the physical book, especially when people in the Bronx can't afford to buy them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you redistribute that wealth, you're making someone else richer.
Mm-hmm.
Schools have been organizing book fairs for the entire school where they have like a week where everyone can come in and bring in the books that they don't want anymore or books that they love. I encourage people to give away books that they love so someone else can fall in love with that book too. So not just this dirty old book that you don't want. Give away a book that someone will feel proud of and want to read.
Okay.
So,
So
mm-hmm.
people can actually also donate to you, right?
Yeah. Yep. I've been
Wow.
receiving so many book donations.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And
I
kind
picked
of,
up 20 boxes last week of books that
wow.
a school
Kind of
donated.
describe for us, Latanya, the communities that you guys serve. Like what kind of communities are these? Why is there such a
Mhm.
need?
So the Bronx only has one brick and mortar bookstore for the entire borough of 1.8 million people, I think it is right now. Um, the medium income is about $40,000 in the Bronx. And compared to Manhattan, where they have 70 bookstores,
Wow.
probably more, um, the Bronx only has one. So here
Wow.
we are, in a borough where $20 to someone else could be food for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes books isn't,
Mm-hmm.
on the budget for that week or month and things like that. So, you know, people are, I don't want to you know, say that we're like really like doing badly in the Bronx. I don't like to like, you know, use that as a vehicle to motivate, you
Mhm.
know. I like to uplift people,
Yeah.
and you know, there's a need here in the Bronx for
Yeah.
books, and I'm here to provide it. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful that the community sees how important it is. There's
Yeah.
even people from like someone who donated books a few weeks ago from California. She sends boxes like every month of books that she has. She's like 72 years old, and she's like, you know, before someone comes to my house, and because she was a teacher as well, so she's like, before I go and someone like comes to my house and throws out these books, I want you to have them. And I believe the people in the Bronx need them. So it's, you know, things like that. People see this story
Mm-hmm.
and they're activated, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in ways that I couldn't even imagine. People are like, what do you need? I'm like, well, I don't know. And then they're like, okay, here's these classic books that someone, you know, I enjoyed as a kid, or I just got these and I'm finished with them. They were great and I'm passing them on. You know, the community has been very innovative in the ways that they've helped.
Yeah.
Um, Someone said, you know, I believe that this is important, and I would hate for something to get in the way of you coming to the farmer's market every week. And when we're at a farmer's market, we have to pay a fee every week. She paid all the fees for a year so
Wow.
that I wouldn't have to miss a market in case I didn't have the money to go
Wow.
there.
That's what I
So,
mean. Yeah. That's what I mean by it being a vehicle of change as well. It
right.
moves people to also take part in this cause. It moves people to really make sure that they are also doing something for their community. So we truly, truly applaud you for that, Latanya. And so
Thank
for
you.
us here at Just Wish Foundation, and of course, Mr. Jack Wu, we've truly put value in causes that involve learning and children and education, and for you to do this in the Bronx, we truly just want to see you grow more and more, maybe
Thank
more
you.
communities, in the future,
Thank
maybe
you.
across the country. I don't know, who knows, right? But we want to do our part as well, with the monetary donation, and we just look at you as such an inspiring person, and we hope others that see or hear about your story will also replicate this in their communities and make sure younger
Yeah.
generation have the learning and the values that they need, not just to survive, but to thrive in the future. So thanks so much, Latanya. Truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Latanya. Good talk soon.